Hello and welcome to Rethinking Materials. Today we are going to be talking about textiles and garment waste and exploring creative ideas about how to make the most out of what we already have. It's time for people to become more aware of how our excessive shopping habits are negatively impacting the earth and come up with new cultural values and styles. My name is Corinne Loperfido, and in this video I am going to show examples of wearable textile art and home goods that I have made for myself over the years. I use thrifted, gifted, and found textiles, including vintage trim and thread, to modify and customize garments to make them more beautiful and functional. There is pride and pleasure in taking good care of our clothing and making them special. Being connected to what we put on our bodies feeds our souls. Have you ever thought about who made your clothes or what will happen to them when you donate or throw them away? Over the last 15 years, our global clothing consumption has doubled, yet people are only keeping things for half as long. Our ancestors made their own clothes, or at least knew the person who was making them on a personal level, oftentimes a family member. They put deep care and intention into their very limited wardrobes by weaving stories into the designs of the fabric and making sure to mend things and get the most life out of them possible. This kind of spiritual and physical bond we have with the textiles in our lives is an important relationship. As capitalism crumbles under the weight of its own ego, we are left with no other choice than to let go of the constant desire for the acquisition of new things. It is time to move into a more realistic and respectful way of being based on gratitude instead of greed. How can we transform the scraps and excess from the gluttonous garment industry into something that fuels our unique cultures through self-expression and helps decrease the need for the creation of new materials? There is so much fabric that already exists on this earth that can be used to make new things. What we need is not a bunch more generic, mass-manufactured t-shirts made in sweatshops, but instead a whole new approach to the way in which we consume and caretake our clothes. I remade this basic thrift store flannel into a more functional, fun, and special piece by sewing on heavy-duty pockets to fit my water bottle and phone, some trim and textile scraps from my collection, and patches I bought from an artist named Sherry Elf. The more you give to your clothes, the more they give back to you. There are no rules in fashion. Let yourself be creative. I promise it will pay off. When I was preparing to build my tiny house, I knew I was going to need to make myself some custom workwear. For this piece I'm wearing, I cut up 2 pairs of vintage overalls to give myself a sturdy base with big pockets, the cut-off fabric from another sweater I had previously modified, several denim pockets cut off from old pants, and of course a bunch of fun patches. Look at me go, people! I bought a pair of used boots from a friend's sale and painted them to match my gloves. I patched holes in my old jeans and sewed tons of pockets and trim on another modified denim dress I found at a yard sale. When you make things custom for your specific size and needs, you are going to love and appreciate them so much more. This flannel shirt belonged to my friend's grandfather, and I have been wearing it for years. I had to redo the whole collar, and you can see a few spots where I had to mend holes and rips where the garment was showing signs of age. I decided to add some custom patches made by my friend Aubrey's Wickle, some cutoffs from another sweater I had modified in the past, and some special fabric scraps I had left over from making a pillowcase. By using a combination of machine and hand sewing, I was able to take this very basic flannel shirt and turn it into a one-of-a-kind piece that I will now love and take even better care of. I understand that not everyone has the time, patience, or skill to sew their own clothes, but maybe the desire can inspire you to try a new skill, even if you're not great at it right away. It is certainly more rewarding than hours spent scrolling Instagram, and 100% guaranteed to get a lot of compliments. What I'm doing here really isn't that complicated. You just have to lay things down on a smooth iron surface and use pins to hold it all in place so you can try it on. By adding embellishments in strategic places like over the pockets where things are likely to get more worn over time, I like to see where I can add durability into my designs. I know not everyone wants to wear wild and crazy clothes, but there are so many people who wish they did, so let this be your permission slip to experiment and be bold. I often get damaged items from people who resell vintage clothing, and this was a really bad rip in these pants. Inspired by the Japanese aesthetic tradition of Wabi-sabi, I encourage people to find peace in accepting that nothing lasts, nothing is finished, and nothing is perfect. What is required to create the change we need to see in the world is a complete philosophical upheaval of the way we relate to objects. Rips and repairs are an inevitable part of life. The more we cherish the items we have, the more active we can become in prolonging their lives. You'll feel better, probably look better, and the earth will thank you for it too. Instead of buying new rags, why not cut up a beat-up old towel? Worried about the next toilet paper shortage? Cut up an old flannel shirt or sheet and turn it into pea rags or reusable tissues. Instead of buying new boring curtains off the internet, I have used secondhand pillowcases and skirts to make my own that are far more fun and colorful just by using a basic straight stitch on a home sewing machine. Even my couch cushions are made from vintage upholstery fabric my mom was getting rid of and a slightly ripped piece of memory foam I found in the trash. Making things yourself or hiring a professional if it is out of your skill level may take more time than just clicking buy it now on Amazon.com. But the personal, aesthetic, and environmental value added by putting energy into reusing or repairing something is priceless. My mother has made and gifted me many incredible quilts over my life, and as I set aside time each year to repair them, I view it as a ritual to honor the love and intention that was put into creating them. We each have a duty to take responsibility for our participation in this system and to not send excessive textile waste to the landfill by our careless overconsumption and the perpetuation of disposability culture. The way we relate to clothing and all textiles has to change. Our earth cannot keep up with the amount of chemicals being poured into our local streams, the toxic dyes, the amount of clean water needed to create new fabrics, and the fact that most new clothes are made out of polyester, aka plastic. We cannot get out of this climate crisis without each person, especially those in wealthy, predominantly white nations, changing the way they relate to consumption and the use of Earth's resources. The main thing we can each do is to buy less in the first place, and second is to take care of what we already have. Personalized clothing does not have to be just a vain fashion statement. I believe it can be an active political and spiritual stand against the dominant paradigm of sameness and cheapness carried out through exploitation. The oversaturation of inexpensive textiles contributes to the destruction of culturally traditional forms of dress because contemporary local makers cannot compete with the low prices of fast fashion and the endless supply of used clothes. You have an opportunity to be your own unique person and to invent new aesthetics for yourself and your community. I hope you have found some inspiration and motivation here to rethink the way you relate to the fabrics in your life. And remember, the real flex is taking care of the things you already have. Here's a short list of resources to learn more about the garment industry and some of my favorite designers on Instagram who are working with secondhand or scrap materials to make new things. Also, I wanted to share this list of creative reuse stores in the United States for people who are looking for secondhand alternatives to the big box fabric and art supply stores. If you know of more places that are not on this list, please leave a link in the comments. And if you have fabric, art supplies, or tools that you no longer need, I encourage you to look into donating to one of these places instead of a thrift store so that we can all share in supporting the recirculation of perfectly good supplies. Thank you guys so much for following along. And if you're interested to know more about my work, you can check out my Patreon, Instagram, or website. See you next time.